All right, so I'm signed in here on my mobile device, just my phone. You can do this from a tablet, or your employees can clock in here using their phone. And in the ExakTime app here, really simple. They'll be given a 4 to 10 digit PIN number that's unique to that employee. And that employee will just go ahead and start off with typing in that PIN. Once I've logged in here, super simple for them to know how to clock in, how to clock out. So right off the bat, green for go to clock in. And then they'll be given a list of locations that this employee is assigned to. So this can be limited to your employees. Right now I'm seeing a couple of different locations. Maybe your employees will only see a couple, one or two. And as I click on that location, it'll bring me the cost codes associated with that. So again, this could also be a limited view. I'm seeing a whole bunch of different cost codes right now, but maybe you only have one or two for that specific employee. The next step here, just a quick snap of a picture. So that's an optional step for you as they are clocking in, just to eliminate that buddy punching, so you know exactly that they are who they say they are when they're clocking in. And then we do have geofence and GPS capability. So with the geofence, what you'll do is for your location or the job site that you guys are working at, you can set up a radius around that geofence, however miles you want that radius to be. And if they are clocking outside of the geofence, you could either provide this warning to them if they are clocking in or out outside of the geofence, or you could limit it so that they could not even clock in or out outside of the geofence. It would not allow them to do so. Since I'm clocking in outside of the geofence right now, I'm receiving this warning. It's asking me to explain, and I can just type whatever I need to here.
Can I interrupt? Who receives that warning? That employee?
The employee, yes. So I just clocked in right now as the employee.
Got it. Okay.
Now, if they punch in outside the geofence, does an admin get a notification about it?
They do, yeah, and I'll show you that back in the admin side. So just barely, we took a look at the employee. I'm going to clock in again as that same employee to show you how you can change different job codes and locations throughout the day. And then we'll take a look at a manager view, and then we'll also take a look at the admin view. So I'm going to go back in as that employee. And let's say I'm changing my location, or I'm working on a different project throughout the day. I wouldn't have to click stop to clock out. All I have to do is to click go again, change my location. Maybe I'm working on a different project now, clerical work. Snap that picture again. And then I'm receiving that warning once more. Once I've completed those steps, I've clocked into that other project or other job code. So your employees can clock in to different locations, change their job codes throughout the day without having to clock out. There are some additional options for you there on those steps when employees are clocking in. You can track equipment if that's something that you want to do. They would have to select the piece of equipment that they're using for that project, and you'll be able to run a report to see how much of a piece of equipment is being used and who's it being used by. And you can also have, with the current environment, some COVID-19 related questionnaires. They will receive a couple of questions, something similar to if they have been in close contact with somebody that has tested positive with COVID-19, or if they're feeling sick themselves. And if they answer yes to either of those, then they could be prompted to stay home that day or to seek medical attention. I'm going to go back as that employee now and then show you how they'll clock out. So I'm clocked in to a whole bunch of different job codes for the day, finish up my projects. I'm clocking out now. Just click stop. You can snap that picture if you'd like, and then you can have some optional compliance questions. So the compliance questions: were you injured at work today? Did you take all of your meals and breaks? And then you can also have them sign off to end that clock out. And all that information, those compliance questions, those answers, and the signature plus the image that they're snapping will all be sent over real time to the desktop version, which the HR admin will be viewing. And they can see real time the employees that are clocking in, what locations, what equipment they've used, and view those images as well as those compliance questions.
Hey, Nick, on those questions, is the questions dictated by administration?
They are, yeah. So you'd be able to determine what forms you're going to use.
Right, like, did you complete your daily report today? You know, that would be one I would love to have in there. You know, things like that. Okay,
yep.
Very good, Nick. Thank you.
Yeah, we have a standard list of questions. You can customize those. I believe they are additional fee though. And then I noticed, so Brent sent me over some information from his discussions, and he sent me over some notes. We connected. I noticed Spanish speaking capability was very important. So we do have that available. I'm going to clock in right now for a Spanish speaking individual. You'll just be able to put the settings, and based on their unique PIN, it'll notice them as a Spanish speaking employee. So now I'm logged in as an employee with Spanish. Just go ahead and click Entrar to clock in, and then the same kind of steps there with the location, cost codes. Snap that picture, and then that warning again, all in Spanish. All right, any questions there on clocking in and out and clocking into different positions as an employee?
I have none, Nick. Keep going. You're good.
That's great. Now we'll take a look at a manager view and some actions they can take. So a manager or a supervisor will log in here. Same view to clock in and clock out for them. But you're also able to have your managers or supervisors clock in for their crew or for different employees. So instead of having all of your employees clock in for themselves, or maybe an employee forgot their phone that day, they need their manager or supervisor to clock in for them. They're able to do that. This manager here, John, has a crew. You can select his crew here. Maybe he has a couple of different crews that he could select if he's going to clock them in. Then again, the location, the cost code or projects he's working on. And then this is the equipment. So this is an example of equipment that you could track. You could select multiple pieces of equipment that they're using on that specific project. And if everything looks good, he doesn't need to add any more employees to that crew. You can go ahead and click go to clock in. Showing him the employees for this crew. Again, I could add more if I needed to. And then clock in. The same steps there for him to clock out. He would just hit stop to clock out. Managers will also have a view of his direct reports time cards. And then a team view using the GPS tracker. I can see in real time where all of my direct reports are at based on the GPS on their phone. I could also see a history of time punches, who's clocked in and clocked out throughout the day. And I'll get another situational awareness view here in the menu under Site Hub. We'll take a look at that in a second. Field notes are a great way for supervisors, or you could let your employees add field notes as well. And this is a great way for you and the HR team to know anything that's going on in the field. So maybe somebody gets hurt or a piece of equipment breaks. They could add this note right on their phone. They could add a text note, add any photos, snap some pictures, or add any voice notes. And then a history of that will be saved under the history. As they save these, it'll go straight to the HR team in the admin side to view. If you're utilizing schedules, the supervisor will be able to see his direct report schedules, and employees, when they're viewing their schedules, can even clock in and clock out right from the schedule without having to use that first home page screen that we saw earlier. Expenses can also be tracked from the mobile device as well. So say an employee, John here, he's going to get maybe materials, or for this day, lunch is provided by the company. You can add that expense type, the amounts, and then any comments, and save that, and that'll field over to the desktop version Connect. Then I mentioned SiteHub as a situational awareness tool here. So this is really nice for supervisors, a live feed of anyone who's clocked in and clocked out for the day. I can see who's on the site right now, and based on their hourly wage, I can see estimated labor costs. If I'm working on a project for a long time, it's nice to know the weather. And if anybody does get hurt, we've got quick access to nearby hospitals or restaurants.
I do have a quick question about that, how it totals the amount of hours that they worked into a dollar value. Is there capabilities to put in a total budget and then have it deduct as the project goes on? Like deduct hours?
No, we don't have the capability to add a budget and then deduct the hours. It would just be from their hourly wage, and then just as you monitor, maybe you're getting reports every day, or you can just view the report on your desktop to see how much you are allocating to that specific project. We don't have a way to deduct it from the budget today.
Okay, no worries. So can you only see that dollar value on a daily basis, or could you see what the project is racked up throughout, like a 1 month period or something?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can run a report to see, based on however time frame you want, you'd be able to determine the time frame. In this specific area, this SiteHub, it's just showing the labor costs for this day, the estimated labor costs for this day right now. But on the admin side, when you view and you run a report, you'll be able to filter the dates and run a report to determine however you want to see that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Great question. Any other questions from what we've seen so far on the employee end or a supervisor's end? All right, let's take silence as no. So now what we can do is hop over to the desktop version to view what the admin side is going to be seeing. So they're going to get a situational awareness kind of tool similar to the supervisor here, where they'll see any employees that have currently clocked in. They could filter that by the different locations that you might have. Any field notes that are coming from the field, like those, anybody getting hurt or a piece of equipment getting broken, those will field in here. So I'll be able to view a list of those field notes real time. And then if I am utilizing schedules, I'll be able to see the scheduled shifts for this location and what employees are scheduled for those shifts. As time gets entered in on the mobile device, it will automatically be sent over here to Connect, the desktop version. And at any time, I could view a time card summary of all the employees. So right here, I can see the list of all the employees, their regular time, overtime amounts, and double overtime, and then a total of their hours worked. From here, really simple for me to go ahead and quickly sign off and improve those time cards. If there are any errors or exceptions to the time card, I'll be seeing these red dots. So the question popped up if they did clock out or clock in or out outside of the geofence, how would admin be notified? And this is how they'd be notified, by seeing these errors to the time card. What I can do is just click on the error. It'll take me right to that employee's time card detail. And from here, I can see that he missed a clock in. I could hover over the error as well, and it'll let me know exactly what the issue is. So this employee, Jonathan, is missing that start punch. I can go ahead and click in and put in the location, cost code, and the time, and make that change. This is also where I can make any changes or edits to this employee's time card if I needed to. Other errors that could pop up is that geofence and GPS touch detail. Maybe they're clocking outside of the geofence. So I can see that here as I hover over. If I want to know exactly the location of where this employee clocked in and out, I could click on that little globe. And it'll take me to a map view here, where if I scroll in, I could see the location of where he was supposed to clock in and out, the radius around that. And if I zoom in a little deeper here, it looks like this employee, Jesse, had clocked in and out a couple miles outside of the geofence. And if I look closer, looks like he did it at a golf course. So now I know, because I have this data, that I can reach out to Jesse. Maybe there's some disciplinary action, or I can reach out to a supervisor. Just making sure that my employees are clocking in and out where they're supposed to, and no time is being wasted on the job.
I do have a quick question about that. So will it only track their location upon clock in and clock out, or can we have it track their location for the duration that they're clocked in and clocked out?
Yeah, great question. So it is tracking their location throughout the duration of the clock in. There is this geo tracker feature, and that will give you kind of a breadcrumb data of that employee and his pinged locations throughout the day, as well as if you remember on the manager view, they had a team view where they could see that data, so they were able to see their employees and where they're at. And the admin side also has a map view where they can view all the employees. So I could toggle between the employees that I want to take a look at, and then pinpoint their exact location.
Okay. And how often does it ping to know their location? Is it like once every few minutes or once an hour? Like how often would we get that breadcrumb?
Yeah, it's based on their speed of travel. So if they are moving very quickly, if they're driving, it'll ping that on a more frequent basis. If they are going, if they're pretty static and they're just at one job site, that'll ping them less. So it is a couple of minutes or longer if they are as static at a job site.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions in regards to the geo tracking, geofence, or the GPS data?
I have none at this time.
I do have one question. To set up the geofencing at every site, Can you do that remotely on a map, or do you have to go to the site?
No, you can do that remotely from here on a computer. So when I create a location, you'll have all the standard locations that you're working at. You can add new locations. But here, I could use Bing to gather the GPS information. Then I'll be able to determine how large the radius of this geofence that I want to set up.
And all of this job information can be automatically linked with Procore. So all of our data in Procore will flow into ExakTime automatically.
That's correct. Yep. So the location, projects, and employee data will flow from Procore to us, and then we'll provide Procore with the time data.
Okay, perfect.
The other thing I wanted to show you were these policies. So when Brent and I had
mentioned
connected,
that the employee, sorry, real quick.
Yeah.
You mentioned that the employee data is flowing over from Procore. We don't have employee data from Procore. It comes from Sage. So can it also come from Sage?
Nick, I can take that one. Yeah, so we can set up the integration to flow through Sage and Procore. So you pull the employee data from Sage, but we can also share and receive from Procore as well. And I can kind of work with you guys to see what that's going to look like as far as where does the information start and where does it end and when does it flow back, basically. I have a great contact for that as well.
Okay, good, because we don't.
We can help you with that, I promise.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. Sorry, Nick.
Not a problem. Thanks, Brent. When we had connected, Brent had mentioned that you had some unique policy rules for overtime based on the type of labor they are. Maybe they have different policies for a carpenter. So this is where you'd be able to set up those different policies. With those rules that you had, I didn't see any issues. We could set up all those different policy rules. So here you could do overtime based on the week or daily overtime. I know he mentioned that any time after 8 hours for a specific employee would be counted as time and a half. And then after 12 hours, it would be double overtime. So we're able to set that up. You can create policy groups of employees. So I would tie all of my carpenters to a policy group, maybe name that my carpenter policy group, and then put that policy information down for the daily overtime. And then maybe there's some different policies for the day of the week. So if weekends have a different policy than the rest of the days of the week, and you can set those overtime policies.
Okay, and what about, so there's a lot of complicated rules. So for example, there's one where, say, a laborer starts before 6 a.m. So they clock in at 5 a.m. That first hour of work for them from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. would be double time. So is there a way to input that as well as, and then anytime after 8, in addition to 8 hours would be overtime. So it's just an added rule.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is where you would do that. Is that the same rule for each of the different days? Each day of the week?
Yes.
Okay. So you can do that here, where it starts at 6 a.m. and then it'll end at 8 a.m. So add that rule, and then you could also have that daily overtime rule. So you could have multiple rules tied to one policy. No problem there.
Okay.
Hey, Nick, I got Meredith, you know, so occasionally, Nick, we'll have certain rules for like demolition crews. If they work 3 consecutive nights at regular time, but 7 for 8 hours, would that be able to input that somehow the same way? If it's what you would have to pre-launch that in there, right? You'd have to preset that up for those designated days. Is that correct? Can we do that also?
Correct. Yep. And that would be under this consecutive day one.
Gotcha.
So during the implementation process, when we're getting you guys set up with the system and training you on how it works, we'll help you put in your different policy information. You just let us know what policies that you have, and we'll help you create those groups and add those policies to those groups for your employees.
Okay.
Here on the back end, I just wanted to show you that we can accomplish what you were hoping to achieve there.
Meredith, you okay with that? Anything else regarding that type of work?
It's hard to picture how it would be right now, just because there are so many different rules. It would be, yeah, it would be hard to input those, but I don't know. It seems like it could encompass all of them, I hope.
Yeah. No, we could sit down and pre-con that and get everything set up prior.
Mm-hmm.
And if there is anything else other than the ones that you had previously spoken about with Brent, you can shoot it over to us just to make sure that we can accomplish that. We'd be happy to give you a yes or no on that.
Okay.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a scheduling feature within ExakTime as well. Do your employees have like a set schedule each week, and is it pretty standard?
No, it changes daily.
Okay. Our scheduling tool is more for if it's static. If it is changing daily, you would have to come in here and make those changes every single day. But know that this is available if you do have any static schedules for employees. Pretty simple. You just have to drag and drop the employee on the time, and then maybe edit. Maybe he's working till 4 p.m. this day. You can have this repeat daily, maybe up until the end of this week. And then you choose if there are any other employees that have that same schedule, the location, and then the cost code. Go ahead and save that. This would allow your employees to view their schedule right on their phone. So this is an option for you. It sounds like with the varying shifts and the daily schedule change, you'd have to determine if this would be a good fit.
I find that very, very inviting.
Mm-hmm. So with the schedules, when you put in the location, does that determine where the employee can clock in and out? Like if they tried to clock into a location that wasn't assigned to them, would it give them an error message?
Yeah, so they would not be able to clock in to a different location. They'd have to clock into that specific location.
Okay, and when they do
they
log
wouldn't even
in,
have
would
the
it?
option.
Okay, so it wouldn't even, so I noticed when you were showing us how to clock in and out, there was a whole list of different locations. So then it would only show them one location, which is the one that they were assigned to.
Correct, the one that they're assigned to.
Okay, okay, great, thank you.
And if they are assigned to multiple locations, it'll give you a little logo of a target next to the location that they are closest to.
Okay, gotcha.
Lastly here, I wanted to take a look at reports. So we do have a whole bunch of one-click standard report options here that you can run based on cost code, employee, equipment, all that information that we're capturing. Some popular reports that a lot of our customers tend to run is based on cost code. So if I want to see how much I'm spending on each of the projects, this is where I would determine that date range, as we mentioned earlier. You could also get pretty granular on this if you wanted to change the formatting, other specific options and filters that you want to add. I could simply just run this report. And from this one, it'll display the cost codes and then the dollar amounts for those cost codes based on the date range that I had selected. So I think, Meredith, was this the one that you were asking about earlier?
Yes, thank you for showing that. That's really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Some other reports that are very popular is this GPS touch detail report, or touches outside the GPS geofence. If I wanted to run a report on my employees to see, okay, exactly where are my employees clocking in and clocking out, if I am allowing them to clock outside the geofence. I could run this report. It'll give me a list of the employees and then the location that they were supposed to clock in at and their exact GPS location. I think I might have selected too much data. There we go. So in this example, for James, this is the start location that he was clocking in at. He was okay. He was within the radius. And then the stop location that he had clocked out at, there was a fix that needed to happen. He was outside of that distance, capturing all of that information here. And if he was outside, then it'll tell me exactly how far outside of the radius he was. Are there any specific reports that you run on a frequent basis that you want to make sure that we have available?
Myself, I think that's a pretty good thing. It almost eliminates the employee and the superintendent from entering time, because it's all calculated for us already pretty much, Nick, you know, as long as the employee punches in, and if an employee doesn't have a phone, then the supervisor needs to punch in for him. Correct?
Correct. Yeah, we have clients that will set up maybe a kiosk, just an iPad right at the job site too. So for anyone that maybe forgot their phone or doesn't have a cellular device, they can use that iPad to clock in and clock out on their own if you don't want the supervisor to do it for them.
And it has to be a mandatory thing then with this program. So I like the idea of the kiosk possibility. Yeah, sometimes guys forget their phones, or a phone breaks on a job site and they're unable to punch out. They'll have to have the resources there to do that.
Absolutely. And they're going to learn really quick. I mean, if their pay is determined by them clocking in and clocking out, they'll learn really quick that they need to make sure that they're clocking in every day on their device at the time that they're at the job site. And we'll help with implementation. We'll help with training and best practices to help you kind of relay that information out to your field workers, so it's a smooth transition.
I do have a brief question about training. Could you maybe give us a quick rundown on how the training works?
Yeah, Nick, I can take that. Yeah, so upon contract signature, you're assigned a dedicated implementation manager. What they do is we have a kickoff call, and then we determine the schedule from there. So some companies need a lot of training because they're not as tech savvy. It sounds like you guys are. You guys have Procore and Sage, but we kind of determine the training from there. Who all needs to be involved? What level of comfort do you have with technology? Things like that. So it's very customized. And then as far as getting up and running with the system, pretty quick. Within a few meetings, we can have you guys up and using the system and be fully up and running in a month and a half at the most. Let me know if that answered your question well enough.
Yes, that did. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Great question.
You know, I do have another question kind of slightly about the integration. Since we're going to be integrating from 2 different places and things like locations and stuff like that, is it all going to be labeled how we have it labeled in those applications? So, you know, like say our verbiage that we use, and because we use like job numbers and stuff to identify our job sites that correlate with like our PO system and all that kind of stuff. So I just want to make sure all this stuff's going to correlate with each other.
Yeah, it'll definitely match. No problem there at all. And it'll match because it's not a set it and forget it integration. We actually go in there and work with you to create the integration. And the only thing we really need to determine is, and I'm going to get with my Procore guy on this. I'm thinking we'll probably integrate Procore into ExakTime, then ExakTime into Sage 300, and kind of let ExakTime live in the middle there. That's what I'm kind of thinking from a high level. I could be wrong there, but I just want to make sure that we get all three. I mean, because you guys have cost codes and employee data in Procore, is that right?
I think employee data, Ashley said, was inside Sage, but I believe cost codes and other notes and stuff about sites might be in Procore.
Okay, yeah, that won't be a problem. Yeah, I think
most of it is going to come from Sage. That's where we update the cost code information. The job gets created in Procore. Just really the job number is created in Procore. Nothing else starts there. And then that gets ERP integrated into Sage, and that's where we add the rest of the job information. So that's where we add the cost codes that are going to be associated with it. We don't use Procore to its full capacity when it comes to the financial side. But most of it happens in Sage.
Got it. So we could only have to integrate with Sage.
I think you only have to integrate with Sage, but I could be thinking about
Brent, and I was gonna jump in and agree with that. I think you're only gonna need to integrate with Sage.
Okay, well that's great. That's perfect.
So, but let's say we do the integration, we do go live with you guys. We're a month and a half in the future, right? Now, when we get new locations, how does that work? Like, do we have to implement it in both apps at the same time, or can we just, you know, can our ladies in the office use Sage and it automatically pops up in this app as time goes on?
But yeah, you can add it in Sage and it'll kick back to us in ExakTime, or you can add a location or a job code on the fly in ExakTime if you need to do it immediately.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And so, you know, just from the initial demo here and discussions, what do you guys think? Is it a pretty good solution for you guys?
Yeah, it seems like it could be for sure. I do have one more question about from the time card function when we're going through and approving. I just wanted to see what it would look like for us to edit someone's time manually.
Yeah, Nick, I'll let you go over that, sir.
Yeah. So the time card summary view is when you're viewing all the employees, and you can make those quick approvals.
Mhm.
Again, if there are any errors in the time card, you'll have these red dots. I'm just going to click on this, or I could click on any employee to view their time card detail. And this is where I could make those different edits. So if I needed to make an edit to one that has already been clocked in and clocked out, all I have to do is click on that. Maybe instead of 7 a.m. or 7:59 a.m., it was 10 a.m. or something like that, and I can make that change and go ahead and save. Or if there were any missing time punches, then I can make those changes, add the location, add the cost code. Maybe it's 8 a.m. because it looks like he was clocking in at 8 a.m. the rest of the week, and go ahead and recalculate the save.
So is there a way though to put them into the regular overtime or double time columns from here?
Yep. I don't think I have that policy set up for this employee, but you are able to edit those areas as well.
Okay, without having to change the policy though?
Yeah, you just have to have that capability for this administrator to be able to do that. And I don't think I have that access right now.
Okay.
So you'd be making those different changes as well as the overtime.
Yeah, it's just easier that way, just in case we're not able to capture something in the policies. It's just easier to be able to manually do it sometimes.
Okay. And I'll go back and make sure if that's a feature 100%. I think I've seen that before, but it looks like right now I'm not able to do that. So I'll make sure if you can do it outside of the policy and let Brent know.
Okay, thank you.
All right, great. Any other questions from anybody?
Hey, Nick or Brent, I got one more question. It would be, can you provide any type of pricing or 30-day time trial, or what kind of options do we have moving forward?
Yeah, I can provide pricing. We don't have any time trial, but I can definitely do pricing. So what I'd like to know on pricing is, we do it per employee per year. So how many users will this have?
Meredith, can you answer that roughly,
Probably
or Ashley?
around 50 or 60.
Okay. And a user is defined by anybody that's going to be in the system. So 50 or 60?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I can just give you a rough view here. $69 per employee per year. And then it's going to be $2,750 to set up. That's a one-time fee.
2050?
2,750. That's a one-time fee. That's for setting up. That's for training. That's for everything. And then if we're only integrating with Sage, that is a one-time fee of $895.
800? Okay.
Yeah, $895.
And what if we need to set up with integrate with Procore?
Procore is 3,600 because it's a bigger integration, and then that also has a tail to it. So year one is 3,600. Years 2 and beyond are 2,100 because it can require maintenance, and we keep that up on our end.
I do have one other question.
Sure.
Could you possibly give us some references of some other companies that we may know that use this app?
Absolutely, absolutely. We have a lot of Sage 300 users on ExakTime. So what I'll do is I'll get with my customer service team and I'll get you some references. Go ahead.
I'm meaning more like construction companies that use it, because I know you said your company was based off construction. So
Absolutely. I'll make sure they're construction as well. That's why I always like to do is make sure they're like-minded companies. So very good point there. 2 to 3 references sound okay?
That's perfect. That's perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no problem at all. That'll be probably later next week, honestly. We have quite a few folks out of the office for the 4th of July holiday, but no problem at all. And then I can also send over kind of a formalized quote after this. It'll just have, you know, a box of the pricing and everything like that. So I'll send it over to everybody on the call. Should I make it for 50 or should I make it for 60 users? What do you think there, Meredith?
I would do it for 60 just to start with, and then we can discuss and get the exact number for you at a later time.
Sure, sure. And it's pretty easy to, you know, add and subtract as well. So no problem at all there. Okay, well, I can get this over to you. I can also send over the recording of today's demo. Mike, I'll make sure you're on that. I know you wanted the recording as well. Was there any other outstanding questions that we had today?
I have none, Nick, at this time.
None from me.
Okay.
None for me. Just want to say thanks for your time. Great
Absolutely,
presentation.
yeah. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Nick, for the really great demo. Really appreciate it. Mike, thank you for setting it up. Mike, I hope you enjoy the golf course, sir, and I hope everybody has a great 4th of July.
Yeah, I hope everybody has a great 4th of July. And Brent, look forward to getting that email, to everybody with the references and the formal quote. Ashley, if any questions pop up today for you and your team at all, feel free to just shoot me an email or give me a call, and I'll happily get them over to Brent. We'll get it taken care of. But it sounds like we got a good plan, and we'll all be in touch next week.
I appreciate your guys' time. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
bye,
you.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great 4th of July. Bye-bye.
You too.
Bye.